Hello, my name is Mike White. I am a former audiovisual systems integrator of 30 years and a native of Tennessee, an electrical engineer by background, and I'm here today with my good friend Doug Wack, the president and founder of K-WAV, and we are here to have a brief discussion not only about the technology, what's happening, what's growing, but let's first start off with you, Doug. How did you get to right here?
Yeah. So thanks for that, Mike. I appreciate the introduction. It really starts off a few decades ago. I was working for a company that did automated optical inspection of printed circuit boards, which is a mouthful, but effectively it's a camera on a stick, and we were looking at components on circuit boards while they were being assembled. That was really a final QC process. I flew all over the world looking at circuit boards. Eventually, the startup I was working for was purchased, and through that acquisition, I ended up going to China to set up a sales and service office. I didn't know it at the time, but I would spend 10 years in China, a little bit of time working for that company that sent me. In that time, I visited well over 1,000 different Chinese manufacturers that were making various circuit boards from cell phones to motherboards. And then that company closed the division I was working in, and I decided to stay in China and study Chinese. So I enrolled in university and studied for a couple of years. And then the balance of the time that I was in China, I was designing products and having them manufactured in China with some people that I had met while I was living in China. So I have about a decade of experience living in China, working in China, and had an opportunity to read, write, learn how to read, write, and speak Mandarin. At some point when I was in China around 2009, I had a relative in the rental and staging industry that called up and asked if I could do a purchase for them in China of LED. And I said, sure. What's LED? And that was kind of the beginning of my LED journey. From there, I moved back to the U.S. in 2012 and was able to set up a LED distribution ship with that same relative, which led me to working for a Pro AV integrator and then on to starting K-WAV, which came from both my experience in China and my experience with the Pro AV channel and working as an integrator. So we started K-WAV in 2019. And from the beginning, K-WAV has always been about providing the professional services that are needed to have a successful LED project solution.
Thank you, Doug. The reason that I've been blessed with this opportunity to have this discussion is because a couple of things we have in background. We're both engineers. We both look at challenges and opportunities through the eye and logic of an engineer. And I bring the integrator background and supplement, even you served as an integrator as well, a manufacturer, all of your background. And we're excited today to have this brief discussion on the technology and the introduction of a new name and what that's all about.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to talking about K-WAV and the transition to total LED.
It hasn't been that long since you and I sat down in this same building in front of these same cameras, this same professional crew, shooting us and giving us the opportunity to talk about some real important insights about direct view LED. But today is very special in the fact that we're announcing a name change from K-WAV to total LED. And there's nobody better to tell people about that than you. So if you would introduce to us what's going on and why the name shift.
Sure. Well, at first I would say this. I mean, even though it's not been that long since we sat down and had a discussion, certainly this name change was already percolating in the background and has been for quite some time. And perhaps it's best to start with a little bit of history and they kind of get us to this point. The original name, K-WAV, really was my kids' initials. And when I started the company, of course I needed to have a name for the company, and I used our last name, the W, my daughter's name, the K, and my son's name, Austin, and his middle name, Van. So it made sense to put those together, and it sounds like an AV company because it ends in AV. So it really looks like K-WAV, which was the initials of my kids. The genesis of that at the time effectively was that the business model we were following was that we were kind of a hybrid company, in that I set out to really be a distributor of direct-view LED with an eye towards creating my own products. But as the company evolved and I became we, and the products started to come online, it became clear to me that a name that was more in line with what we actually do made a lot of sense. So we sat down and we thought about it, and we came up with the name Total LED. And we feel that that name is a better description for what it is that we do. We definitely are a provider of DVLED solutions. And so that being the crux of what the business does, it makes a lot more sense to have a name that is descriptive of what we do.
So you're still focused on the display side of the LED business. You're not getting into house lighting and other elements which LED is very commonly used.
Yeah. So I guess we could have called it Total DVLED, but that's kind of a mouthful. So we stuck with Total LED. But our focus still remains direct view LED video walls, and we'll continue to do so.
Doug, I'm amazed at how smart our phones are. We can be talking about something just like direct view LED, and our phones pick it up, and what's the next thing happens? A Facebook commercial, and you can buy direct view LED from anywhere doing anything all the time. It's truly amazing.
For sure.
But your focus, as you have taught me, is as a direct view LED manufacturer, your end user, your customer is the audiovisual systems integrator, the dealer, the person that interfaces the end user, right?
Absolutely, and for good reason. And I think that I would reflect that back to you and ask you a question. And with your experience, why do you think that is? I mean, why does it make sense, for us to have a focus?
That is absolutely a great question. My background of almost 30 years as an AV integrator owner, as a person who is blessed to serve as the International Board of Directors for 4 years for Infocom, and many years as the chairman of the board for the US AV Group, a group of dealers. I've had the opportunity to work with integrators of all sizes around the world, and I absolutely can say without question what's important. And what's important is that an integrator feels confident that the manufacturer that they're working with is not going to go around them.
Yeah.
Is not going to create channels that compete with them, or even worse, that they are undersold by the very manufacturer that they're representing to that end user. So my background is what qualifies me to support your organization that is focused on that dealer channel. So let's talk about that strategy, that focus, that commitment to the integrator channel from your standpoint.
Yeah. So from our standpoint, I mean, it's very simple. We view the Pro AV dealer as our extended sales force. And as such, it's our job to support them in every way that we can. And that doesn't include taking projects direct. In fact, that includes us making sure that we're always going through the Pro AV dealer. But it's not just that. And it's not just about providing products for the channel. We don't stop there. We have packaged together with the products a whole suite of professional services. And that's one of the things that definitely differentiates us. And much like you, That comes from my background working as a Pro AV dealer as well, because when I worked for an integrator, I helped to set up all of the systems that we used, from pre-sales to sales to engineering to project management to installation and on into service. And because of that, we offer services to support every phase of what I call the total project solution.
Thank you, Doug. And I just compliment you as a businessman who recognizes how important this is to even the end user, because the end user oftentimes don't know what they're getting into when they commit to a new sparkly, bright, blinking light, that they think they got all the knowledge, and they don't. These are smart people, but if they're doing something that is not within their wheelhouse, not within their focus, they can absolutely invest a lot of money and it not work for them.
Yeah, 100%. And there's a lot of traps you can fall into, but I would say this: when you have a product or a service that you're not dealing with on a daily basis, it's hard to stay current. And a lot of this is what I call muscle memory. If you do an install once every several months, chances are you're going to forget some of the things that you learned in the previous install. We do this every day, and because we do it every day, it's top of mind, and we are always current with the latest technology, with the latest software, with the latest installation procedures that we have in place.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Doug, and thank you for that commitment to the AV Pro channel. Very candidly, everybody knows the title LED or Direct View LED as a product. They see it used in so many different environments, and maybe in a few minutes we can talk about some of the best places that it works and some places that it's not the greatest fit. But if you are trying to help an integrator with an end user about the things to look for, the important things, the specifications. I'm not asking you for pixel pitch. I'm not asking you for, lots of things that get down in the nitty gritty about engineering, but there are elements about choosing the right LED for the job, mitigating those risks. Expand on that just a little bit, how you and your company, from an engineering standpoint, help a dealer who has an opportunity, whether it be a church or whether it be a sign on Times Square, to pick the right product.
Yeah, so it starts way before the picking of the product. It really goes back to product positioning when you're designing a product. And for that, you have to look at the specific application for the product. And I think that a lot of times there's a difference in the industry in how companies approach that. Some companies approach it really what I would call from a top-down perspective, where they look at what product they want to make and they create that product and then they push it into the market. The other way to look at it is kind of by looking at what the need is in the market, gathering those requirements, and then pulling those into a product design. So when we look at it that way, and we use our experience from years of being in the industry and being a Pro AV dealer, we look at it differently. We look at it from a perspective of ease of installation. We look at it in terms of installation time. We look at it in terms of repeatability. All things that are going to help the Pro AV dealer to have more repeatable, faster outcomes that are going to drive profit and retain customers.
So you and your engineering focus help an integrator to really avoid some of the pitfalls of just not having the experience. And that's not a negative to the integrator, because we can't be experienced in everything. Right. I mean, we got 10,000 moving parts from everything we do. We do need an expert. So you're focused on helping them to pick the right elements, but more importantly, ask the right questions.
Yeah, ask the right questions at the conception of the product, but even before that, I mean, asking the right questions when you're designing the product before you get to picking the product is also a critical thing. So engaging with people that are in the field, asking them the questions about what they're seeing, what problems they face for any given application or installation, and then taking that information, that data back from the field and incorporating it into a product design.
So it would be common for an engineer within a company that is, got a great salesperson who's gone out or somehow found an opportunity for an LED, but and then some of those are really technical people, but in the process of a company, that comes back to an engineer sitting somewhere within the organization that's got to fulfill the commitment that salesperson created.
Yes.
So it's common for that that engineer to be calling your company and asking, what do I need to pick here? Which
Right.
one, which mounting system, what can I expect? And that's something that you are focused on helping us do.
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point in time, I mean, at that point you have the products designed already, and you have at least some idea of the application. And now it's really comes down to asking the right questions to get to the right product, to get to the right way to mount the product, to make sure that you're installing the right product in the right way in that particular application.
Okay. Well, Doug, I appreciate from the standpoint of a former integrator that commitment, because there's just so many things to remember. And with you all staying focused and being experts on the direct view LED line is really helpful. We've talked about your focus in supporting an integrator and mitigating the risk by helping them to ask the right questions. You have a commitment to the integrator channel. You're not competing with them. You're supporting them. But there's a lot to this element of what differentiates one manufacturer from another. I mean, just for instance, we've talked about it before. The specifications, the specs in our industry, there aren't any.
Yeah.
And so kind of go through the most important elements that from a engineering supply chain standpoint, your ability to speak Mandarin, your existing business relationships in China, not having to guess. You just was over there last month. Explain to us some of those critical elements and why they should be important. What makes a difference for Total LED?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Appreciate it. So it's experience, right? That's one of the big things that sets us apart. I mean, yes, we have product features, and those are important, but it's not the product features or our whiz-bang sales presentations that really set us apart. It's the experience of working and living in China for 10 years.
There's more than one factory.
There's a couple, and it's building relationships with those factories, and frankly speaking, being able to navigate the supply chain in China, which is understanding how to find suppliers and how to qualify them, and then ultimately picking the right partners to work with. And it's living in China, managing suppliers for 10 years that gives us the ability to do that, right? And it's the understanding of where and how the products are made, right? And what the challenges are in the supply chain.
And there's a little bit of element of negotiating, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that negotiations in China are difficult. Well, the thing is that I mean, think about it. In the U.S., we rarely negotiate for anything.
We don't.
I mean, an automobile, maybe. Occasionally you might negotiate for something, but when you live in China, you negotiate every day, and it becomes just part of what you do. And so you expect there to be negotiations and that they're going to happen, and you develop skills around that. So it's the ability to negotiate. It's the ability to understand the specifications and what's acceptable. To your point, you can get anything made in China, right? And you can get it made well, or you can get it made cheaply. And being able to know the difference is the key to understanding what you're getting. And if you're going to try and make a quality product in China, you have to inspect what you expect to be able to get the quality level of product out of China that you are trying to get out of China.
So, being gracious and kind as you speak all the time, you're saying that there is a probability that a lot of the manufacturers of LED, that their products, the diodes and stuff that are used to make the direct view LED, that they could differ a good bit and have a long-term difference of reliability, absolute commitment to the whole project not going well.
Well, what you're talking about there, I think, is it's not just the creep of the scope or the creep of the materials that are being used over time. It's transparency. And if you look at what's happening in the direct view LED industry right now, many manufacturers are not being transparent about what they're offering in terms of the components that they're using. And that goes again back to being able to go to the manufacturer, go to the factory, go to China, understand what you're looking at, right? And being able to ensure that what you're getting is what you specify, but also being transparent about what it is you're offering when you sell a product.
So Total LED is very open and transparent about your sourcing, why you made those choices. That would be a part of what differentiates Total LED from many, not all, but many of the LED manufacturers.
Absolutely. Not only are we going to be transparent with you in terms of what the components are that we're using in our products, but in addition to that, if you have any specific needs, we're willing to custom engineer products to meet those specific needs and change components to do so.
Certainly, I do not speak Mandarin. The intimidation of the negotiations, they just don't teach you that in electrical engineering.
No, they don't. But here's the great thing. We've built this company to be able to mitigate that risk for Pro AV dealers so they don't have to.
Like so much of the audiovisual industry, it's mature. It has, there are just countless suppliers, and there are so many avenues in which you can source things. I mean, you can buy them used, whatever, and it's very difficult for an integrator who really sometimes maybe they don't know the right question to ask. We talked about that earlier, about the right question to ask. But if you could help kind of speak to the future of helping the integrator see what's coming down the path about where they should source their DV LED, and why it even matters.
Yeah. So as the industry's grown, and you're heading more towards commoditization, it's easy to look at this and say, hey, who has the cheapest DV LED, right? And that's one way to do it. But I think as the market itself matures more, we're moving past that, and we're starting to move into an era where people are looking at it and they're saying, what partner is going to offer a quality product that's going to last for 5 or 10 years, and they're going to be around to service it in 5 or 10 years. And I would say this, it comes down to a few things. First, it comes down to the quality of the components that you use. So when you talk about image quality, it's pretty easy for people to create a quality looking screen out of the box. It's a lot harder to have a quality looking screen 3 years down the road. And that comes down to really a couple things. It's quality of components and quality of manufacturing process. And, as we've mentioned before, we're transparent in the quality of components that we're using. And with my background being in quality control equipment for printed circuit board assembly, we're able to engage at a level that helps us to easily understand what the quality of the process is as well. So quality of components, quality of process leads to a quality outcome, a higher quality video, and ultimately it's a higher quality experience for our Pro AV dealers.
So when a dealer, an integrator, is speaking to a museum, which, you know, they usually are very long-term commitments in a museum. They're not changing out 3 or 4 years later. Translate to the dealer what he or she can say to the curator of that museum about knowing where quality is and how long these things should expect to last, because everybody that I know has gone into a room, gone down the highway, gone somewhere, and they've seen an LED with one of the panels blinking or out,
for sure.
or a major number of pixels out. A museum, you're up close seeing it. So give a dealer some talking points about how long do you expect this investment to last, and how do you ensure that it does that?
Sure. Well, when we look at direct VLED, I mean, first of all, you should expect 100,000 continuous operating hours, which translates into roughly a little bit over 10 years. But that's not the entire story, because yeah, it might be working that long, right? But is it working and still producing a quality image is really the question. And you know, the answer to that question, it comes down to the quality of the product that you're putting into the installation, right? Which is the quality of the components and the quality of the manufacturing process. But when you talk to an end client, it really comes down to being able to articulate to them that it's not the initial capital investment that matters as much as the total cost of ownership. In other words, it's what are you spending over the lifetime of that product to maintain it and to keep it operating at a level of quality that's acceptable to you. And if you look at an LCD or a projector, sure, they might have a lower upfront cost. Even a cheaper LED, that might have a lower upfront cost. But if you start looking at it from a standpoint of being able to maintain that quality level over a longer period of time, now you're getting into the total cost of ownership discussion. And a higher quality LED screen definitely has a better return when it comes to the total cost of ownership discussion.
Okay, let's talk on the person level just at the very end of this discussion about dependability and quality. Even the best fails sometimes.
For sure.
Even the best.
Absolutely.
You meticulously choose the right manufacturer, they've chosen the right components, but they still sometimes have challenges. What commitment does Total LED have to the integrator and end user relative to those small number but very real failure challenges?
Yeah, well, I mean, as an engineer, I'm sure you can appreciate this. What I like to do is quantify things, right? I like to look at it and say, okay, what's an acceptable failure rate? And if we get above that acceptable failure rate, what's the mitigation? So, you know, that all depends on the failure rate. So far, I've not had any experiences where we've reached a point of a parts per million failure where it's catastrophic and we're looking at it and saying, we need to replace this screen. What you do see on occasion is that you might have a failure and it prompts you to go on site and take some kind of mitigating action. But certainly, you know, our commitment is to make sure that those LED screens are, you know, running properly as they should, and to talk about what those part per million failure rates are and what those, you know, what those gates are that are going to precipitate different actions.
And those small occasion that it does need a repair, are you sending, like many, are you sending your stuff back to China? or are you bringing it here into the home office in Detroit?
Yeah, so we
'Cause
don't.
that's a strong commitment.
Yeah, no, we're not sending stuff to China for repair. We're repairing it here locally in Detroit, which greatly reduces the cycle time on what we need to do to get things repaired. But also, I mean, just being smart about how you choose the amount of spares that you bring to a given project also helps to be able to swap parts out and mitigate having a wall that's not looking its best, right? Because if you've got enough stock of spare parts, you can swap a part out. The wall still looks great. You accomplish the repair, send it back, put it back into that spare stock, and you're only down as long as it takes to swap out a part.
Almost every single vertical that exists has a large ecosystem that has an impact. And in the DVLED environment, even going back to my experience as an integrator, I would get projects that were specified by an engineering firm, an architectural firm, a consulting firm.
Yep.
I would oftentimes have an end user that had researched themselves and decided that they needed X, Y, Z, and
Right.
call and say, can you sell us this X, Y, Z? So what is Total LED's commitment, your commitment, because Total LED is based on your passion, based on your integrity. What is your commitment to the ecosystem? Talk about the ecosystem, the different ways in which there is a physical choice of what LED, the size, and everything goes into a project.
Yeah. So, from a standpoint of the ecosystem, the way I like to look at this is that there's an upstream operation that happens before it gets to a Pro AV dealer, right? Before the project gets to a Pro AV dealer. So there's a natural flow of things. So it comes from an end user. A lot of times, especially with bigger projects, you're talking about someone from the A&E community, so an architect or an engineering firm, consultant firm that gets involved. And they're the ones writing the specifications. And from those specifications, then it's going to turn into a project. So you have sometimes you've got a general contractor, you have an electrical contractor, and then sometimes you have the Pro AV dealer that may be plugging in under one of those contractors. So there's a definite flow of a project to the Pro AV dealer, and it doesn't matter where in the process we enter into the equation. We're still an integrator first company. We're bringing that deal to the integrator.
So let's put that into words. If a large retailer, that we can drop names of anything, but they use LED inside their stores or whatever, if they contacted you directly and they've got engineers that are internal,
yeah,
the temptation is there for a manufacturer to go, oh boy, we'll just take that and direct.
Sure.
But what is your commitment?
Well, we don't look at it from the short-sighted approach that some others do. We're looking at it from the long-term approach. So we're always going to take that deal to a Pro AV dealer. If the end client doesn't already have a Pro AV dealer in mind, if they don't, we'll find a suitable Pro AV dealer and we'll bring the project to them. What we find is that the earlier we're involved we are in the process, the better the outcomes, right? If we could be involved early on in the design process, even when it's conceptual, on through the engineering process and into the installation, the outcomes are smoother the earlier we're involved. The bottom line is that better planning equals better installations, and that can happen at the Pro AV dealer level, but it's even better if it happens at the level of the architect and engineer when they're doing the specification.
Yes, sir. It all starts in the process of identifying someone that has done their homework or knows someone that has done their homework,
right?
Creating specs, because it is a big deal which pitch size that you choose. It is a big deal to consider the HVAC impact
Yeah.
of an LED display, the electrical requirements, the
Yes.
structural requirements.
Sure.
It's so important. And you can bring those elements to the architectural and engineering world. You can also bring them directly to the end user, but your channel still remains the same as that integrator.
Yeah, absolutely. Our role is really to be a consultant, you know,
To the consultant.
consultant to the consultant, but a consultant the whole way through the process,
Yes.
right? And it doesn't matter if I'm talking to an architect or I'm talking to an engineering firm or if I'm talking to a Pro AV dealer. We're still going to be that consultant, and we're going to bring our engineering capability, you know, to the project. And the earlier we do that, the better the outcome.
Yes, because today it proves true with every single marketplace. Channels develop where you just wouldn't have believed it. One wouldn't expect to go onto Facebook and find several suppliers selling direct view LED directly to end users.
Sure.
Based on a Facebook advertisement. And there are people that are buying those.
Sure.
But your commitment remains the same. It's quality, it's asking the right questions, and it's going through the integrator channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it always will.
Doug, we've talked about so much relative to the marketplace and where direct view LED is just growing, and it's really great. And you've made a dramatic, very important choice to lead the company from K-WAV to total LED. So what exactly is next for total LED?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still here to make DV LED easier, more reliable, and to make our partners successful. That's the bottom line. That's what we're here to do. And since the beginning, that's always been about simplifying something that's complicated and making it understandable. And we're going to continue to do that. Our job is to bring value to our partners, our integrators, and to do that by simplifying DVLED and making it something that is not only attainable, but repeatable and profitable.
Thank you, Doug. That's so important that you've got that commitment and you're exercising that through the total LED name change and what you all are now and what you're going to continue to be as a former integrator, still helping integrators. I mean, that's why I'm sitting here, is I found this a tool and a commitment on the part of this company to help integrators, and that is so important, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.